Perfect. Sounds good. Thank you so much, man. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? We got YouTube online. Today's a big day. What's up, SML? All right, SML, I see. Watching on the iPad, Northport, Florida, on my phone, watching NBC5 Chicago, but you're not in Chicago, just watching the tornado coverage. Did they have a touchdown in Chicago? We were monitoring a little bit earlier. Hey, SML, you were on tornado coverage for us. Actually, SML, I know you've got your eye on so many different stations all across the country. If you see something that is bubbling up, put it in here. Tornado. Yeah, and we'll check on it. Hey, what's up? Can you hear me okay? I don't see a tornado warning, okay? Tornado warnings, but I don't see anything touching down yet. Illinois has several warnings. It's going to be a crazy night of hit and miss. Oklahoma City. But nothing that I've seen yet. All right, SML, you are our guy on tornado warnings. If you see it, start sending what you're seeing confirmed in the chat. Not warnings, but touchdowns if you see them. Iowa, look, Z57546, hopefully not. Like, we're hoping no tornadoes tonight. There are tornado warnings all over the place, so you know, it's going to be one of those unpredictable weather kind of days, but we're hoping that everything stays safe. Let's see. But yeah, if you guys are starting to see tornado touchdowns anywhere, alerts about tornado touchdowns, there's a lot of storm chasers that are out there in Illinois. Is this confirmed? Interesting. Hey, Todd, are you in the ear? Okay. Seeing some Kankakee, Illinois. And again, this is so early on. This is not even, it's a pretty big one. Is, if what you just said about the election coverage happens, will we have a little bit of a hole for maybe Karen's, or is Karen has already left? Got it. And we don't have anybody, right? Okay. Yeah. Okay. All right. I mean, worst comes to worst, and we need to fill a hole, we could probably punch into local fills or something. All right. Cool. Hey, thanks for all of that, chat. All right, so what are we covering tonight? Well, we are covering this special election that's happening out there in Georgia for Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat. This one's a jungle primary, and a jungle primary is weird. Jungle primaries are basically those types of primaries where they call them jungle because it's everybody in there. So Democrats, Republicans, Independents, and the top two will make it to the runoff in April. Actually, if somebody gets the majority over 50%, then they'll take Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat right off the bat. But that is unlikely. Because, I mean, so I'm not Steve Kornacki, but as I've heard him explain it, this is a Trump plus 37 seat, which means that this area is one that the president won in 2024 by 37 points, which is a huge spread. obviously, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she had a falling out with the president and she resigned, and so this is to replace her. So it's somewhat of a referendum on the president, even though, you know, this is for her seat. So you've got a lot of people that are coming out and they are supporting the president. You've got a lot of people that are coming out and they're voting for people that aren't necessarily the president's pick. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. All right, let's see. And then, yes, we are going to be covering Iran. Let's see. 2 seconds. This is taking forever to load. Oh, I have 2 instances of iNews running. All right, there we go. iNews is the best piece of software in the world. It's where we write our scripts and keep all of our information and all that good stuff. All right, let's see. Election and weather. SML, we see those as well. Thank you. Thanks for the heads up. All right. Also, we're going to try something out today. Hopefully this goes well. But we're also going to try to stream this on Twitch. If it works, we'll see. I'm a little bit apprehensive. Twitch, let's fire that up and see how this works here. Twitch. Gosh. I think I'm just, it should just be under Gotti Schwartz. Latest stream. That's this guy, okay. There's no picture. Testing out. All right, we'll see. We'll see if we can put this up. Should probably put a picture there, but. Does anybody out here watch stuff on Twitch? Whoa, there's a lot of people on Twitch right now. Just testing, not streaming to the main channel. Oh, not yet. Okay. All right. Guess we're just testing today. We're not streaming yet. Still have to work out some stuff. There we go. All right. SML, you are always watching on YouTube, it looks like. Why YouTube? Just wondering. Do you always watch everything on YouTube?
5 minutes.
5 minutes to the top of the show. I do. I remember Lawrence. Are you Lawrence? Are you Bess? Are you Caitlin? Severe thunderstorm warning in Chicago. I saw that. I saw that. Are you Mike Anderson? I keep thinking you're Mike Anderson. Either Mike or Shar, but I don't know if Shar would be. I mean, Shar would be on TikTok. Shar was. It's Shar. You're Shar. Brenda, I remember Brenda. Do you remember Machuca? Come on. All right, 00294, male or female? If you guys are here wondering what's going on, clearly username 00294, I think they used to work with me at KOB because they know all the people that I used to work with. And I'm trying to guess who they are. And I would really, really like to know. It's been a persistent mystery for the last couple of months. All right, let's see. 3 minutes. What time intervals do we use for our countdowns? What time intervals do we use for our countdowns? 5? This is Big Mike, our floor director here. Max wants to know, can you ask the director, what time intervals do they use for your countdowns? This is so I can improve my work as a director.
I'm not really that sure.
What time intervals do you get?
I get 2 minutes, 1 minute,
2 minute, 1 minute, 30, 15, 5. Then he goes silent at the 3.
Yeah, after 3, yeah.
Yeah, nice. Man, Max, we're all going to be working for you very, very soon. Let me see. Let me check what you're saying here, SML. $90. Huh. Let's hope that's... So it's a warning right now. All right, 90 seconds. 90 seconds. We're going to start right here.
Starting at B.
B. Okay. Got it. What's up, Silam? What's up, Alex? Sue, hello. Let's see. Here we go. You've got some of the best questions. All right, we're starting here. Is this a little, it's a little wonky. There we go. Looks like it's going to fall. There we go. I'm not sure if that's on that tight. 30 seconds. All right. 30 seconds. We're starting with Iran. We're going to be doing a lot of coverage today on the special election in Georgia. We're covering what's happening in New Mexico with the Meta lawsuit. And we're also going to touch a little bit about Zorro Ranch, the Epstein Ranch in New Mexico. So that's coming up.
10.
Watch right here.
5, 4, 3.
Hey guys, it's Scotty Schwartz, and tonight what was supposed to be the most intense day of U.S. strikes against Iran. So what are we seeing play out right now in the Middle East, and why are oil prices coming back down after a massive spike? We've got the latest from the region. Plus, polls are closed in Georgia's special election, a closely watched race to see who's going to replace Marjorie Taylor Greene. We've got team coverage as the results start coming in. Then what we are learning is investigators search Jeffrey Epstein's ranch in New Mexico and why they are zeroing in on this property now after all this time. And a former NFL player is accused of asking ChatGPT for help after allegedly killing his girlfriend. Now his chat history is taking center stage at his murder trial. And tonight, the White House is saying that the war with Iran is going to end when President Trump wants it to.
President Trump will determine when Iran is in a place of unconditional surrender, when they no longer pose a credible and direct threat to the United States of America and our allies.
And the administration is saying that while the U.S. military is ahead of schedule in their operation, the president gets the final word. It comes as we are learning more about the toll the war is taking on American soldiers. The Pentagon says around 140 U.S. service members have been hurt since the start of the war. Meanwhile, explosions are still going off in Tehran after what the administration is calling the worst day of attacks yet for Iran, just 24 hours after the president said this war is, quote, very complete. This is what the Secretary of the Defense said this morning.
For example, today will be yet again our most intense day of strikes inside Iran. The most fighters, the most bombers, the most strikes.
And here is the result that we have seen so far. Video from the Iranian Red Crescent showing rescue workers searching through the rubble of damaged buildings in Tehran early this morning. Iran continues to retaliate all across the region, and people across the Gulf are catching all kinds of moments from this war in real time. Somebody at the beach in Dubai, they recorded that. It looks like a fighter jet chasing a drone right over them. And people are also catching moments up close like this one in Israel. Take a look at this. IDF says that isolated failure caused the missile to impact without being intercepted there. And as this war grows, so does the number of deaths. The Iranian Red Crescent says over 1,200 people have been killed by Israeli and American strikes. Officials say 13 have died in Israel as Iran is fired back. NBC's Keir Simmons has more from Dubai, where Iranian airstrikes continue to fall.
Hey, Gary, well, it's been a quiet evening here in Dubai, and yesterday night was similar, but that may not be down to the Iranian regime changing tactics, but instead simply the fact that we've had some windy weather, which makes it harder to attack with drones. They are that kind of amateur munition that is terrifying and can do real damage, but at the same time, as I saw last week, can be put together with a wooden propeller. Pete Hegseth, of course, in command of the world's most impressive military, and he said today that there would be the most intensive strikes on Iran. But we don't know for sure because, of course, the limitations on reports from Iran. What we do now know, according to the Pentagon, is that 140 US servicemen and women have been injured. That adds to the US death toll already and paints a picture of a very difficult war, and certainly an increasingly difficult war. Here in the Gulf, these countries are deeply worried, honestly, because it doesn't, as I said, look as if the Iranian regime anytime soon is going to stop targeting these countries like where I am, the United Arab Emirates or Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Bahrain. And the reason for that is because of those US bases here. What Iran is hoping to do is to cause such chaos and such concern here that these capitals turn to Washington and say this has to stop. Of course, it is also pretty much stopping shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Even those reports that it is now mining the Strait of Hormuz, it may not be doing that because ideally the Iranian regime would like to see Chinese shipping pass through that strait because China supports Iran, but not shipping from the US or tied to US allies and partners. And that again suggests that this could be an extended conflict, and that is very bad news for the Gulf, with all of its developing economies, its concern with trying to establish stability. All of that now is shot to pieces, and they here in the Gulf are increasingly angry with Iran because they are being targeted. But remember that the Iranians, in order to declare some kind of a victory here, may simply have to say that the regime survived, that the new leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, who took over from his father, Ayatollah Khamenei, who was, of course, assassinated at the beginning of all this, that he has survived. They may simply, in Iran, the regime there, need to be able to demonstrate that they can continue to cause that chaos even in the face of that barrage from the US and Israel. The new leader in Iran is a man in his mid-50s. We haven't heard from him. He may even have been injured. In those strikes that killed his father, it sounds as if members of his family were killed too, including his wife. What kind of mentality will that put him in this situation? Again, that is another reason for very, very deep concerns about where this is all going. Fundamentally, in war, it is a truism, and it has been pretty much true for as long as wars have existed, that it's easier to start a war than to end one. And that is what President Trump is discovering. Gady?
Keir Simmons, thank you so much. Now let's bring in NBC News military analyst Colonel Steve Warren. Colonel, great to see you. We've heard an increase in the intensity of the strikes, right? Now possible mining of the Strait of Hormuz by Iran. What does that do to the calculations of any potential exit ramp?
It makes it tough, doesn't it? You know, the president and the secretary and the chairman of the Joint Chief have explained several military objectives that they intend to achieve in this conflict, right? And we're all becoming familiar with them. You know, to no more nukes. You know, eliminate the missile threat, eliminate the capability to build new missiles and sink the Navy. And we're sort of going down each one. I think we started with the air defense missile threat. That has been eliminated. That's why our planes can fly unrestricted through Iranian airspace. Next is the ballistic missile threat, which I think we've reduced significantly. We haven't seen as many ballistic missiles fired throughout the Gulf region, while there are still some. Next comes, of course, these kamikaze one-way drones. That's a taller order. There's a lot of them. While they're fairly easy to hit, the Iranians have thousands and thousands and thousands of those, so getting to them is tough. The Navy, we've hit pretty hard. The chairman of the Joint Chiefs said 60 or 50 naval ships have already been sunk, but that still leaves plenty of these fast attack boats, and it leaves what's most concerning, of course, are these mine capabilities that the Iranians have. Some rumors that maybe they've laid some mines, and that's all it takes, Gady. They don't even have to lay a mine. They just have to make people think mines are out there, and the commercial shipping won't go. And then finally, you know, the industrial capability, that's going to take a little longer. But I think at the end of the day, when the chairman is able to go to his boss, the president, and say, okay, boss, we've ticked off each one of your objectives. What do you want to do now? It then becomes up to the president.
And speaking of those mines, again, just the threat of those mines right now being in the water, bringing everything to a halt. How do you clear mines from a strait like that?
It's difficult. Now, I will say the United States, the American Navy, has several things going for it. Number one, it has exceptionally good counter mine measures that it is able to take. We can't talk about all of them on TV, but they have sea-based counter mine capabilities. They have air and helicopter-based counter mine capabilities, and they even have EOD, explosive ordnance demolition teams that can swim in and disable mines. Now, having said all that, we also have great mine detection capabilities. Again, air-based, satellite-based, and sea-based. So if they lay some mines, Gady, we will know about it. And then the last thing to keep in mind, you know, during the Gulf War in 1990, the Iraqis threatened to lay some mines. In fact, they did lay some mines. But I was talking to some sailors from those days, and the Iraqis were so scared because when you're out there laying the mines, you're very vulnerable to detection and destruction. So the Iraqis, when they tried to lay mines in 1990, they were so scared that they laid them very haphazardly, made it much more easy for us to detect and eliminate them.
Yeah, it's very difficult to know whether those mines have been laid. It does seem like the president, you know, he just posted on Truth Social a little while ago, basically saying, hey, if you have laid mines, you should remove those mines, and that would be a step in the right direction. I'm paraphrasing here, but it's really interesting. The fog of war in effect right now. I do want to ask about the stockpile on our missile defense right now. We know that the United States has been using some of their defense systems and other assets to the Middle East, some of them coming from the Pacific or Indo-Pacific. South Korea, the leaders there are not happy about that, as well as some of the leaders of Taiwan. What's the latest there?
Right. So two points there, Gady, I think that are important to know. Point number one is I am confident that we have the air defense capabilities to protect our troops that are directly in harm's way today. So those troops that are fighting in the Middle East, they, I believe, are well protected. We have multiple layers of air defense capability, from our most exquisite high-tech systems all the way down to simply, you know, getting in a bunker to protect yourself. Multiple layers of protection, early warning, et cetera. Now, in order to keep our supplies in the Middle East at the levels they need to be, it appears that we are having to shift some supplies from other locations. Now, what that does, and this is important to know, is that causes us to have to accept some level of risk in those other places. So the South Koreans clearly not happy that some of the air defenses, obviously there to counter the North Koreans, we are drawing some of those down to move them over to the Middle East. So that is a risk that the president and the chairman and the secretary have to weigh every day.
Yeah, one of many that are being calculated right now. Colonel Steve Warren, really appreciate your insight, as always. Thank you so very much. Over to Lebanon now, where some American citizens are deciding to stay put despite the danger, which has forced nearly 700,000 people living there to flee from their homes. NBC's Danielle Hamamdjian has that story.
Sunday morning in Beirut, and a handful of congregants at All Saints Church is trickling in. A dwindling community once full of expats.
Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Among them is American retiree Virginia Sadler Shatila. If she'd listened to the U.S. government, she would have left the country over a week ago.
You've had the American government say to American citizens in Lebanon, leave while commercial flights are still available, yet you are here.
Wow, so
in
we've already got enough
2006,
for...
we had an Israeli invasion.
Wow.
And we had Canadian, French, and American ships for evacuees. I didn't leave then, and I'm not leaving now.
Despite her family back in D.C. urging her to return to the U.S., after decades in Beirut, this is now home.
Where is your allegiance?
So it's Sean Harris.
I will always be
Fuller.
American.
Wow.
Always. And even now, in these political times, I don't want to speak against my own government, which I'm not very happy about. I'll leave it at that.
But the death toll is quickly rising. Government officials say more than 700,000 people are now displaced in a small country of just 6 million. Israeli strikes on Beirut have become so common. For some, this is simply background noise. But Israel has now also struck in the heart of the capital.
Israeli strikes on Beirut have mostly focused on one specific suburb, with the exception of hits like this one, a precision strike on certain individuals throughout the city, in this case, the 5th floor of the Ramada Hotel. Israel says they were targeting commanders of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps.
As was the case for this hotel a few days earlier.
This is causing even more panic because they're in areas that have not been hit in the past.
Unlike neighboring Israel, there are no sirens in Lebanon alerting the population of incoming strikes, nor are there bunkers to hide in. And according to experts, once Israel killed Hassan Nasrallah, the former leader of the paramilitary group Hezbollah, which is backed by Iran, members of the IRGC, Iran's most elite military force, stepped in.
We saw members of the IRGC micromanaging, particularly the military arm of Hezbollah. So they've revised the entire military doctrine, they've been training them, they've been working with them.
The Lebanese government is now taking a harder stance on Hezbollah, even calling for direct talks with Israel for permanent security arrangements to contain the militant group. What many say is a seismic moment in Lebanese politics, but Israel has yet to respond as it continues to trade fire with Hezbollah. Many fear Israeli forces will use this opportunity to push further into Lebanon and never fully retreat. Back at the Anglican Church, years of conflict and strife have tested the faith of those here, but not broken it.
We are resilient, and I consider myself one of the Lebanese as well. I am American, yes I am, but I am with the Lebanese community, and I want to stand and say we are here to stay. We're not going down easily.
Danielle Hamamdjian reporting. Danielle, thank you so much. And some breaking news to get to right now in the Georgia special election to fill Marjorie Taylor Greene's former seat. With just over 50% of the vote in, NBC News can now project that the race for the 14th district will head to a runoff between Republican candidate Clay Fuller, who was endorsed by President Trump, and Democrat Sean Harris, who lost to Greene in 2024. That runoff is set for April 7th. Now remember, Greene resigned late last year after breaking with President Trump over several several issues, including his handling of the Epstein files. I want to bring in NBC News correspondent Aaron Gilchrist, who's at Republican candidate Clay Fuller's camp right now. Aaron, the polls just closed, and we're already making this call. What's the reception to these results? And was this totally expected?
This is somewhat mostly what was expected here in Georgia's 14th congressional district. I'll tell you, though, here in the room, it doesn't seem as though word has sort of trickled out to folks who have gathered for this watch party. They're continuing to watch results come in on the the Secretary of State, the Georgia Secretary of State's website. Clay Fuller is standing at the front of the room, just sort of mixing and mingling with folks. And so I don't know that they're looking at the numbers in the way that our team has been able to call it at this point. I will say again that this is the outcome that was largely expected. I talked to Clay Fuller earlier today, the obviously leading Republican candidate here, and he told me that he thought that this would end with a runoff between him and Sean Harris, the Democrat here who ran against Marjorie Taylor Greene in 2024, who also racked up about 35% of the vote in that election, running ahead, obviously, now with the numbers we're looking at of what he did in 2024. Clay Fuller, though, the candidate who was backed by President Trump in this race, felt confident coming into today that this would turn in his favor, at least among the 12 Republicans who were vying for the votes of their constituents here. Now, I point out the fact that there were 12 Republicans running in this special election, just to make note of the fact that there were a lot of people who were hoping to sort of place in this race, right? And that is what diluted some of the numbers and have put us in a position now where there's going to be a runoff. I also talked to Colton Moore, the second Republican you saw on the screen there, who effectively is in third place at this point. And he felt like the wind was at his back, that he had been out talking to voters, and it seemed as though there was a lot of excitement built around his campaign. Throughout the course of this election cycle, we know that he has been the one who's been a little bit more of a firebrand, a little bit more stylized in the way that President Trump presents. All of the candidates were staunch supporters of President Trump. Clay Fuller, obviously, the only one who got the backing of the president, and he is going to be a candidate, I think, who continues to present in a way that's a little more mild-mannered, not quite in the style of Marjorie Taylor Greene, who used to represent this area, or in the style of President Trump, but still someone who got the president's endorsement. The president was here in Rome a few weeks ago. Clay Fuller was on stage with him, and again got that verbal endorsement from President Trump that's now led him to this runoff. Just to explain, Gotti, a little bit about how this will work going forward. You'll have that runoff election in April. They're calling people's attention here in the room. I suspect that means that they're about to notify them about where things stand before we hear from Clay Fuller.
Yeah, I think they probably found your stream there, Aaron. I do want to ask, you've been talking to voters all day, if you could, and feel free to interrupt and take us to what's happening behind you. But I do want to ask, how much of an impact did President Trump seem to play in this special election based on the conversations you've been having throughout the day?
I wanted to make sure to come by here tonight and tell you thank you. My gosh,
Well, Clay Fuller said that he thought the president's endorsement was a big factor for him, something that helped to turn the tide in his favor. And as we talked to voters who were going in and out of some of the polling sites here in Rome, Georgia, they said that, 2 years ago, they supported Marjorie Taylor Greene and they supported President Trump. They have pretty much set Marjorie Taylor Greene aside, but they still very much support President Trump. His policies, perhaps not necessarily his style, but certainly his policies. We asked in particular about the war with Iran right now, and a lot of the folks that we talked to, again, Republican voters, said that they support what the president is trying to accomplish, Gotti.
Aaron Gilchrist out there in Rome, where all roads are leading tonight. Thank you so much, Aaron. I want to bring in NBC News chief data analyst Steve Kornacki over at the big board. Steve, this is a lot of build-up, a lot of computing, and then all of a sudden we have a result very, very quickly. Are you surprised at the numbers that we're seeing so far?
I think a little bit for two reasons, Gotti. Look, I mean, Clay Fuller, the Trump-endorsed candidate here, I think there was an expectation, certainly, he was the favorite among Republicans to be the top Republican vote getter. But I think the distance between Fuller and the other Republican candidates here, Colton Moore was sort of seen as the top rival to Fuller. It's not even close between the two of them. I mean, you could see here, Fuller, about 34% of the vote, Moore barely over 10% here district-wide. So I think the power power of that Trump endorsement to really unify the Republicans around Clay Fuller. Again, Fuller had run for this seat a couple years ago. No Trump endorsement. He ran in a Republican primary. He got like 6-7% of the vote. Turns around now, gets the Trump endorsement. Look at the difference. I mean, it's the power of that Trump endorsement here. So I think that, and I think, again, looking here, Sean Harris, the distinct possibility, Sean Harris, a Democrat, finishes tonight with the most votes. He will be the prohibitive underdog in the runoff. This is a district Trump won by 37 points, but Harris really consolidating the Democratic vote. And there are some places in this district where, in particular, Harris has dramatically, and Democrats, I think, have dramatically overperformed. I think that's in line with a story we've been talking about here in this second Trump term, Gotti, where the Democratic base, Democratic voters, are very energized. And I would say that the results are still incomplete from this county up here, Whitfield County, where Dalton is. But this county is interesting because it has one of the highest shares of Hispanic voters of any county in Georgia. And currently, at least, Harris is overperforming. Harris, the Democrat, is overperforming more here than in any other county in this district relative to 2024. Again, there are still some results to come, but these numbers have been getting our attention from Whitfield County tonight.
Yeah, it's tough to know what's going on because, as you said, 2024, 37 points is, I mean, you could make some gains, but are you making 37 points worth of gains is the big question. And for those that aren't, you know, into the weeds with the numbers, they're going to be tuning in and they're going to be like, wait a minute, Sean Harris, 39%, he's beating a Republican in Georgia. Oh my gosh, what's going on? Can you just explain like the craziness of the jungle primary for those that don't live in a jungle primary state here?
Yeah, I mean, it's a special election to Congress, so it's a little bit different here. But everybody, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian, Independent, they all run on the same ballot. If nobody gets a majority, 50% plus one, top two advance. And so I think the easiest way to think about this is there were a couple of Democratic candidates who ran, but Harris is getting about 95% of the Democratic vote. Okay, so Democrats are outnumbered in this district in a big way. But Harris is getting almost all of the Democrats who voted in today's election. Meanwhile, Fuller, the Trump-backed candidate who's going to be the other candidate in this runoff, Republican, he's getting the most Republican votes of any of these Republicans. He's getting about 60% of the Republican votes. There are a lot more Republicans. Fuller's only getting 60% of them tonight. There are fewer Democrats. Harris is getting almost all of them. So that could be enough for Harris to finish first. But if all those Republicans, not even all of them, but if just most of those Republicans unify around Fuller in the runoff, he's the clear favorite.
Yeah, definitely a gut check there. Although, so far, based on the numbers that you've seen, do you think that this is somewhat of a referendum on the president right now?
I think it's telling you two things, though, right? It's telling you that the Republican base still, you know, that Trump endorsement, decisive in this race, I think clearly decisive. So among, you know, Republican voters in that Republican universe, you know, that clout that Trump has, very much this result, I think, is very much telling you it's still very much a thing. But we're also seeing, this has been another story since Trump came back to the White House, energy among Democratic voters, interest in elections, participation in elections. We're seeing evidence here in these results, overwhelmingly Republican district. We're seeing Democratic energy there, too. So I think it's telling you something about the nature of both party bases right now.
Elevated public engagement, political engagement all around. Steve Kornacki at the big board, our favorite place. Steve, thank you so very much. Meanwhile, we want to talk a little bit more about what we were talking about earlier, Iran. The stalemate at the Strait of Hormuz is escalating by the hour. The strait is that narrow passage, that connects the Persian Gulf to the Gulf of Oman. This is it right here. And we've been talking, you've heard about that talk of the possibility of Iran maybe mining or wanting to mine the Strait of Hormuz. There's about 20 million barrels of oil that travel through the Strait of Hormuz every single day. That accounts for about 30% of the world's seaborne oil shipments. Also, a lot of other supply chains. Right now, traffic there has basically come to a halt as Iran has been using it as leverage in this war, something that President Trump has warned could have disastrous consequences. Posting online, quote, if Iran does anything that stops the flow of oil within the Strait of Hormuz, they will be hit by the United States of America 20 times harder than they have been hit thus far. Death, fire, and fury will rain upon them. In a minute, we're going to break down the ins and outs of the strait and what this means for the entire world. But if we've learned anything so far from this war, it is that a huge share of the world's oil and gas moves through that one shipping lane. And when it gets disrupted, prices jump and the supply chains take a huge hit. Our Camila Bernal has more.
Fallout from the war, plain to see at every gas station across the U.S. The price of a gallon of gas now up 55 cents since the war began.
It definitely makes us second guess some of the financial decisions that we make.
In California, with the country's highest prices, gas is well above $5 a gallon.
200 miles, 200 to 300 miles a day.
Yasha Timinovich drives for rideshare and delivery services for about 10 hours a day.
What is it like for you when you drive around and you see gas at $5.79 a gallon?
Makes me sick.
Wild swings in crude oil prices also hitting hard for farmers just beginning the spring planting season.
I have a tractor that requires 100 gallons of diesel fuel to fill it up, and it costs me $469.
John Boyd grows soybeans, corn, and wheat at his fourth-generation family farm in Virginia. He says his fertilizer supplier can't even deliver what he needs.
Due to the war and the bombing through that area, the fertilizer isn't moving, which means it won't be readily available at all to me right now.
And at Josie's Flowers in North Hollywood, Fernando Ayala has already raised prices for deliveries by 20%.
If I have to eat the gas every time, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt.
Camila Bernal, thank you so much. And joining us now is John Kilduff, an oil industry expert and founding partner of Again Capital. John, thank you so much for being with us. So even more escalation that we've seen today. Trump saying that we have hit and completely destroyed 10 inactive mine lane boats and or ships with more to follow. Then a little bit later, he also seemed to say if Iran had placed some mines and if they remove them, it will be a giant step in the right direction. That's kind of a late post here, but it does seem like there is quite a bit of uncertainty. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, it's very uncertain, very inscrutable even. There is a massive, obviously, military campaign going on. I don't pretend to know what the strategy is or what's prioritized. But the only thing I can say is that the U.S. military, one of the next steps has to be securing the Strait of Hormuz one way or the other. All this rhetoric is great, but right now it's deemed to be too unsafe to travel. The insurance companies have tremendously high rates to insure a vessel going through. The ship's personnel don't want to travel through there either. And it seems to be unclear what the Iranian capabilities really are. I mean, this is some old school stuff to put mines in the water. I know you had a military expert on a short time ago and talked about our capacity, the United States capacity to remove those mines. Let's hope they do it. They need to do it. They need to rid us of all of these mine-laying ships. They need to secure that strait, or else this becomes a really bad economic situation for the globe. This is right up there with the Arab oil embargo of 1972-73, with the levels and amounts of oil that are now foreclosed to the global market that we're seeing right now, Gaddy.
I hate to, I hate to say that has already happened, and yet the sketchiness that we've seen and the cloud of uncertainty around whether or not there are mines right now in the Strait of Hormuz. As you were speaking, we had that tracker up, the marine tracker, and it's not real time. This is from earlier. But you got to wonder, who is now, after today, after what we saw the president post, after some of the rhetoric that's gone back and forth, who is going to be the first captain of a ship that's going to traverse the Strait of Hormuz now, and to being the first, What does that do for everybody else that's right now waiting to make that passage?
No, they're all too scared to go through it. There's no question about it, and rightfully so. That's why earlier today the Secretary of Energy posted on Twitter that or X that a ship had been escorted by the U.S. Navy and then promptly deleted it. I can tell you the reaction in the oil market was violent to the downside because we thought this was it. The strait would be opened. The problem we're also having, Gaddy, is that the longer this goes on, we've already seen the Saudis, the Iraqis, and the UAE cut their internal in-country oil production. It's going to take some time to ramp that back up. So this becomes a lasting problem. Again, I said it when we first began speaking, this has to be the top priority now. Securing the Strait of Hormuz has to be the top priority. We have minesweepers. You heard of all the mechanisms we have to make it safe. I will tell you, it's 2 1-mile wide sort of lanes going back and forth. So it's a reasonable amount of territory, I think, for our military folks to cover. But it's what's needed because you've only begun to see the damage on the economy. You've only begun to see the high pump prices. Out in Asia, diesel prices are already at record highs. Here in the United States, they're pressing on $6 and they'll be on $7 soon. All of that rips through to inflation and into the storefront.
Yeah, here in California, I mean, on my way in, we're already passing $6 diesel prices. You said something that was absolutely fascinating, and I saw rumors of it a little bit earlier, but we were trying to make heads and tails of this, the drops, the highs and the lows of oil trading today. And I had seen the rumors of that deleted tweet maybe coinciding with one of those pretty big spikes. Walk me through that again. What happened, and then what was taken down, and what did that do to the markets?
The market sold off. It's a headline to the oil market like a headline is about the Fed to the financial markets. Once we heard that, it sounded like that the U.S. military, the U.S. Navy, was set to escort shipping interests through the through the Strait of Hormuz safely. That's it. That's game over. If we can get that supply back on the market, these $90, $100 a barrel crude oil prices that we just have been experiencing and will continue to experience go away. It was a rug pull, though, as they say in some of the other markets, when that tweet got deleted and the prices sprung right back. And right now, we're all trying to sort out whether or not and how real this promise is that the strait will be secured. And all this talk about eliminating the mine-laying ships, well, we need to get our mine-sweeping ships into that area. This needs to be done. But the market, the oil market, thought that the supply was going to return to the market. The good news for consumers is, Hattie, is that once that does happen, and I believe it will, these oil prices will plummet. We were facing a glut coming into this. There's been nervousness in the market, but we've gone from glut to developing shortage. Out in Asia in particular, there may not be sufficient amounts of crude oil to operate refineries out that way. So that's what's on the horizon as well. This has got to be job one.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you say that. I mean, we think of the consumers here in the United States. As you said, the markets in Asia, the biggest one obviously being China, and they are involved in this in such a big way. Let's listen to something that Trump said about the strait yesterday, as well as China.
I want to keep it open. I want to keep it good. You know, it doesn't pertain to us so much as it does to China. We're really helping China here and other countries because they get a lot of their energy from the straits. But, hey, look, we have a good relationship with China. It's my honor to do it.
Yeah, that is so fascinating. He repeated that again today, saying that we have a very good relationship with China. Obviously, this is jeopardizing a lot of China's access to oil. How do you think that's helping relations? Do you think that's straining relations? How does China impact this whole situation?
You know, China's looking out for number one right now. Supposedly, whatever information are given the Iranians is not meant to harm our folks as much as it's for some other preventive measures. But China could really benefit here, and they are already benefiting to the extent that these sanctions on Russian crude oil get wiped away. They'll be able to capitalize and procure very cheap crude oil. Also, too, if President Trump were to waive the sanctions on the Iranian oil that's already stored off the coast of China, as well, would be another bounty of cheap crude oil for China. China's in the position the United States was 30 years ago in the late 70s and early 80s when we were highly dependent on foreign sources of crude oil. Their economy is very energy intensive, much more than ours. So this is very deleterious, a big negative for them, these high prices. The only thing I will tell you is that as much as China's economy is hamstrung by potentially shortages and these high prices, the American consumer and which is 2/3 of the U.S. economy, we're not escaping it, as you're already seeing. These high prices are coming our way. Shortages might not develop here, but the price we're going to pay for the gallons of gasoline, jet fuel, and diesel fuel will be quite dear.
Yeah, and that is the underpinning of every other part of our supply chain, all the way to the groceries that we put on our table. John Kildreth, always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you so much for your insight. And don't go anywhere. Up next, a manhunt in Toronto tonight for the suspects accused of shooting at the U.S. consulate there. We've got the latest on the search. Plus, wild video of a bus going up in flames in Switzerland. What we are learning is officials say several people have been killed.
2 minutes.
All right. Todd, he was phenomenal. He brought, that was really, really fascinating. Cool. Awesome. Okay. How are we doing on timing? All right. What up, chat? Little heavy? Okay. Good to know. What's our time back? 90 seconds. All right. We got 90 seconds to chat. Let's see. California needs a fence put around it. Ironically, California does have a fence on its southern border. Let's see. Oh, Calvin, thank you so much. What up, Harrison? Give me a second. I'm trying to catch up. You guys are, I missed a lot. California doesn't refine fuel. Russia and China both have been waiting for this. I mean, in some ways, they're taking, well, China's taken a hit, as you just heard. There's some who posit that Russia is seeing a lot of upside in that a lot of the focus from Ukraine has been taken off. They are able to sell, because they're a big oil producer, so they're able to sell a lot of their oil directly to the people that are seeing their supplies cut off, China, and they're able to make money off of that oil sales to fund the war in Ukraine, so we'll see. Let's see. What's up, Jesse? Hi. All right, 10 seconds. Here we go.
10.
I don't think so.
4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. Here are some other headlines we are watching tonight. A 35-year-old woman is being charged with attempted murder after police say she fired a number of rounds at the LA home of Rihanna and A$AP Rocky. Police say Ivana Ortiz used an AR-15 style rifle with several rounds hitting the front gate there. She also faces more than a dozen other charges, including assault with a semi-automatic firearm. And out in Switzerland, at least 6 people have died and a lot of others have been hurt after a bus caught fire this afternoon in the town of Curzers. Now, a major rescue operation still underway. Local media say that chopper crews were sent in and the cause of that fire is still under investigation. And in New York City, police have given the all clear after investigating a suspicious device found near the Gracie Mansion today. The area around Mayor Zoran Mondani's residence was blocked off and evacuated as investigators tried to figure out whatever it was. That discovery comes just days after 2 men allegedly set off homemade explosives, or tried to, in what authorities have called an ISIS-inspired attack during a protest in that same area. And the FDA has a warning out about certain oysters and clams that might be contaminated with norovirus in 9 states. Now, the products include raw oysters from Drayton Harbor Oyster Company and Manila clams from the Lumi Indian Business Council harvested between February and March. Now, they were distributed in Arizona, California, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Nevada, New York, Oregon, and Washington. The FDA says if you have some shellfish, check where they came from. And Uber has rolled out a nationwide feature yesterday, letting women riders be matched exclusively with women drivers, expanding a pilot program aimed at improving safety. Now, this launch comes despite an ongoing class action lawsuit here in California claiming that feature discriminates against men. Uber says the option is meant to give women more control and comfort while using their platform. And police in Canada searching for 2 suspects after a shooting at the U.S. consulate in Toronto early this morning. Officials say the suspects got out of this white Honda CR-V that you see here. They opened fire on the building before taking off. Fortunately, no one was hurt, but NBC's Stephanie Gosk is following this one for us.
Gotti, this incident happened so early in the morning, 4:30 in the morning, that it wasn't even reported to police until 5:30 in the morning. There is damage outside, but not a lot. There were multiple shots, although police wouldn't say exactly how many shots. They were also asked about the motive, and they said that that is part of the investigation. But they also said that they are increasing security at the consulate for the U.S. and for Israel, and also the embassies for Israel and the United States in Ottawa. Obviously, the concern is that this is in some way related to the war in Iran. There were multiple shots. They are trying to figure out who those men were in that white CR-V and what they were doing. They're also investigating 2 shootings at synagogues in Toronto in the last 2 weeks that were somewhat similar. All of this happens in the context of embassies and consulates around the world being attacked either directly or they suspect indirectly because of what's going on in Iran. Iran attacked the embassy in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait. Also, the consulate for the U.S. in Dubai was nearly missed by a rocket. And then you have this incident in Oslo, Norway, where there was an explosion outside the embassy. They still don't know who was behind that, and they haven't arrested anyone at this moment. But there is just this heightened state of alert at embassies and consulates around the world because of the war in Iran. Gotti?
Understandable. Stephanie Gosk, thank you so much. And coming up, the Epstein files leading to a new investigation at his former ranch in New Mexico. Why this is the first time that property is being searched.
2 minutes.
All right.
Staying at the desk.
Ma'am, it is looking pretty hairy out there. There are tornado warnings all over the place. There's tornado warnings in Wyoming. There are tornado warnings in Oklahoma, Illinois, Lake Village, Illinois. Yeah. Let's see. I know, it's always so scary when it hits at night. 740 west of Wyoming. Man. Jasper and Porter counties. Aroma Park. Yeah, if you guys are getting tornado warnings where you are, take heed. In fact, if you guys are in Illinois, in Wyoming, in Oklahoma, anywhere across the Midwest, please have your alerts set. All right, 30 seconds. We're coming back to the Epstein investigation. Latest on the Epstein investigation. Finally, somebody is looking into the Zorro Ranch out in New Mexico. That has been on everybody's radar for a long time, and yet investigators have never searched it until now. So we're going to be getting into why. Here we go.
5, 4, 3.
Hey, welcome back. We are learning that investigators in New Mexico have searched Jeffrey Epstein's former ranch. This is it right here. I want to show you. It's a 7,600-acre property known as Zorro Ranch. Now, several civil lawsuits, have accused Epstein of sexually assaulting girls there. He was never charged, and there's no record of federal investigators ever searching that property. Now, New Mexico's Attorney General reopened an investigation into the ranch last month following new allegations from the Epstein files. The AG didn't specify which allegations, but one of the files recently released by the DOJ includes an email to a local radio host alleging, quote, somewhere in the hills outside the Zorro, 2 foreign girls were buried on orders of Jeffrey and Madame G. Now, the allegation has not been confirmed. Lawyers for Ghislaine Maxwell did not immediately return our request for comment, but as you can imagine, very alarming. Joining us now is Ben Weider. He is an investigative reporter for the Miami Herald. Ben, what was it that took it so long to reopen this investigation in New Mexico in particular? I mean, the Zorro Ranch has been on the radar of investigators for years and years. Why was it never searched before?
It's a great question. I mean, I think, what officials in New Mexico have said was that they were basically told to stand down in 2019 by federal prosecutors in New York, but those prosecutors apparently never actually bothered to follow up on it. So, for years, the ranch just remained and could have been searched. I mean, I should point out that even when Jeffrey Epstein lived in his home in Palm Beach the first time he was investigated, there were concerns that he had tampered with evidence. So it's not entirely clear that, if investigators had searched the ranch in 2019, they would have necessarily found more evidence. With that said, it's a great question why it wasn't searched. And it's not as though there was any mystery about whether criminal activity occurred there. One of the victims who testified at Ghislaine Maxwell's trial in 2020 described being flown out to New Mexico to the ranch, being molested by first Ghislaine Maxwell, and then Jeffrey Epstein crawled into bed with her when she was 16 years old. So it was certainly not a mystery to anyone as to whether anything illegal had occurred there. I mean, there are questions that have to be asked. For example, Jeffrey Epstein was close friends with the former governor of New Mexico, Bill Richardson. There are questions about whether officials did take this seriously enough. It did fly under the radar for quite some time. We know stories about what happened in Palm Beach, what happened in New York City in his mansion, and what happened abroad. But New Mexico kind of was forgotten by a lot of people. But it shouldn't have been, because as we know that crimes occurred there. That's not a mystery. That's already been revealed in court and was part of the testimony that ultimately led to the conviction of Ghislaine Maxwell.
Yeah, that property has gone through a lot of changes of ownership as well, right? Are you concerned after all this time that whatever might have been there is not there? Again, we are talking about over a decade now since, I was a reporter in New Mexico and was there from 2006 to 2013. We would hear rumors of, some billionaire with a ranch. And at the time, we were told it was the ranch near Gary King's old property, which was another governor of New Mexico. And he owned that property before it was, I believe, sold to Jeffrey Epstein. But those rumors have been swirling for such a long time. What do you think? What do you think happened in the days after Jeffrey Epstein was put into jail?
I mean, it's a great question, and there's so many questions we still have about what prosecutors did. So, we know Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested and charged, but we also know that there were potentially other alleged co-conspirators, the federal prosecutor they were going to look into. We still don't know what happened there. We don't know what they did. Certainly in New Mexico, we know they didn't search there. So what really became of the investigation after he died? Did it just grind to a halt? What were their plans in New Mexico? When they told state officials to stand down, what were they hoping to find in New Mexico? That's a question that I have, and that hopefully we'll find out from the files.
Yeah, well, hopefully we'll find out from this investigation very soon. Again, it's been very difficult to get any video from on site, and so we now look to New Mexico investigators to hopefully shed some light on what they found. Ben Weider, your reporting on all this has been incredible. Thank you so very much for joining us tonight. And still to come, a former NFL player is accused of killing his girlfriend, then asking ChatGPT allegedly for advice. What we're learning as that murder trial gets underway. All right. 90 seconds. Okay, here we go. We're back. Live action One Piece. I haven't seen that. Yeah, the 300 I saw the sulfuric acid stuff. I'm hoping that we get some answers from New Mexico investigator. Let's see. What? Is that right? We'll check into that. C reverse. Okay.
Staying at the desk.
Staying at the desk. Okay. Got it. Are we in the E block or the?
We're in the
D block. Okay, so we still have D and E, or are we just going D to out?
We have D and E, I believe.
Okay. Okay, what's our E? Okay.
30.
Oh, okay. Okay, got it.
No animation here.
What's the E block? Tina, good to see you. I know what you're doing, Tina. I know what you're doing now. You're missing the A block because it stresses you out. The E block is the end.
4, 3.
And now to a court case out in Tennessee where a former NFL player is accused of murdering his girlfriend, then allegedly asking ChatGPT for advice on how to cover it up. NBC's Priscilla Thompson has the details.
The New York Jets select Darren Lee.
Former NFL linebacker Darren Lee back in the spotlight, this time in a Tennessee courtroom, accused of murdering his girlfriend, and prosecutors argue using ChatGPT to try to get away with it.
He asks how to cover it up. He asks what to say to 911.
Lee was arrested last month after sheriff's deputies found his 29-year-old girlfriend, Gabriella Perpetuo, dead inside the couple's home.
All I want to do is what is going on.
In body camera video played in a preliminary hearing, Lee tells deputies he doesn't know what happened, but prosecutors painting a different picture.
She has 2 swollen eyes. I didn't do anything self-inflicted.
That's the lead detective. Reading ChatGPT messages prosecutors say were sent from Lee's phone a day before Perpetuo was found dead, including questions about handling someone non-responsive. ChatGPT, they say, replied, "This is serious, but you can handle it cleanly and protect everyone." Also appearing to reply to a question, writing, "Yes, falls can cause puncture-appearing wounds. They usually don't look like clean knife stabs."
There's a whole new frontier. You have ChatGPT, AI, smartwatches, Alexas, all of those devices can now lead investigators in a criminal case.
Lee's attorney declined to comment. NBC News reached out to ChatGPT's owner, OpenAI, and did not hear back.
Priscilla Thompson, thank you so much. And coming up, the head of Instagram taking the stand today in a landmark case against Meta, accusing the platform of failing to protect kids. More on his testimony ahead. But first, you got to see this. We are not the only ones enjoying the warm spring weather. Apparently, so are the dolphins. About a dozen of them were spotted in New York City's East River, jumping and splashing around. Those sightings are always exciting for New Yorkers this time of year, letting them know that spring is just around the corner. We'll be right back.
90 here.
They should have a dolphin day instead of a groundhog day. Right? Yep. Yeah, it is a great movie. All right. Thanks for keeping everybody in the loop, SML. Yeah, the letter blocks. So we have A block, B block, C block, D block, E block. On a normal day, A is all the topical stuff, the most, the leads of the show. So that's the A block. Then the B block, a lot of times we do, like some of the deeper pieces. Okay. 45 seconds. C block, we do a lot of headlines. D block, future of everything. That's where I love to hang out. And then E block is kind of a continuation of the future of everything, if we can get it. Something that has to do with the future, looking forward. Tech is very, very big.
30.
I love when the D block and the E block are both tech oriented, but we can't have it every day. We do. Dun, 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 dun. Yeah, AI stories. Yeah, and mostly D&E or AI.
10?
No problem, Lion.
Cool. 5, 4, 3.
And tonight, in the future of everything in New Mexico, the head of Instagram defending the app today in that landmark trial against its parent company, Meta. Now, prosecutors are accusing the platform of not doing enough to protect kids from sexual exploitation online, claims that Meta denies.
Even though Meta says it doesn't allow child exploitation content, does some content like that make it onto Meta's apps?
Yes.
Is that acceptable to Meta?
It's not, we're not, no, it's not, we're not happy about it, but we're also honest about the fact that some will happen and very committed to finding it and removing it as quickly as possible.
And for more, let's go to NBC News business and data correspondent Brian Chung. Brian?
Hey there, Gotti. This landmark trial in New Mexico continues with today the testimony of Adam Mosseri, the CEO of Instagram, taking the stand live in front of this jury. He was facing a lot of questions over the awareness to which Instagram and by large Meta knew about specifically young teens and children on these apps being subjected to problematic content and in some cases being exposed and vulnerable to predators on the app. Now, Mosseri, interestingly, repeatedly said during the course of his testimony today that it's not really possible for Instagram to suss out all of the bad actors on the app. At one point, he said, quote, let's say there's 1 billion things uploaded a day and say 1 in 1,000 are violating our rules. That's 1 million pieces of content. And he was using that hypothetical, Gotti, to explain the fact that there's just so much content on these apps and that Facebook and Meta, despite the fact that they're doing what they can to try to get that content removed from the app so that young teens and children never see them, that they can't get all of it off of the app. And that's going to be a major, major question for the jury, because is that going to be enough? On one hand, you have, yes, this massive company saying, we're doing what we can, and it's just not possible for us to address all of the really problematic issues on our app. But then on the other hand, you also have them explicitly acknowledging that there is problematic content on the app. Now, that is going to be something where the jury is going to have to decide, is that even small sliver of bad content that still makes it through their filters enough to hold the social media companies liable in a way that they would need to pay up or compensate victims or be liable from a legal standpoint for young teens and children at risk on this app? That is the open question here. This is one of 2 major court cases. The other one is in Los Angeles, where there's an individual plaintiff, a 20-year-old girl that is suing not just Meta, but also YouTube. That is more focused on mental health, specifically as it regards to being addicted to these platforms, whereas this New Mexico case is a little bit more focused on predators on the app. But again, they're happening at the same time. The judges have instructed the juries in both of these cases to deliberate before the end of this month. So it could be only a matter of weeks before we find out a precedent-setting jury verdict in both of these trials in New Mexico and Los Angeles. I'll send it back to you, Gotti.
Brian, thanks. That's going to do it for us tonight. I'm Gotti Schwartz. We'll see you here tomorrow. But until then, stay tuned to NBC News Now. All right, let's see. When do we get the... Thanks so much, Todd. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks so very much. When do we get the rest of the UAP Epstein files? That is a very good question. Hopefully not on the same day, right? Thanks so much for following. Golden Heat. Tokaloka. Why do you say allegedly about the Muslim throwing bombs on live stream? It's facts, not allegations. No, I think we're good. That's a good question. That's a really good question. Number one, we say allegedly all the time. It's just mainstream journalism. That's like, you know, from J school. It's imbued into our head, like just allegedly. Unless you, my rule usually, and it's not a great rule, but these days I am a big first person like account kind of guy. I was a correspondent. I've been a journalist for 20 years, and this anchoring thing is only at the last few years that I've been doing it. But when reporting as a correspondent, the most important thing is always like first person accounts or attributing to this person, attributing to that person. Allegedly is a crutch word. I hate it too, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, it's a great question. We said it, allegedly. Allegedly. Let's see. Lax memes. Answering the question. There's no real answer. We say allegedly a lot. Say it all the time. Stay safe. Not standard. How much do you think gas prices is going to go to? Oh, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm going to be riding my bike. Let's see, what else? But you are, I don't think so. Lax, we're mainstream, man. I mean, I've been accused of being both left and right. I am not left, not right. I'm just trying to give you the news to help you figure out how the world is working, just like the rest of us are trying to figure out how the world is working. But biased. I mean, we're humans, so, you know, cognitive bias is something that is in our development. In terms of objectivity, I try to be as objective as humanly possible. And so, yeah, we're going to give you all the news that we can fit into this show. It's an hour long. We give it to you for free. So we hope you come back every single day. And when you have questions, we will try to get them answered in the chat. And I'm going to just keep doing that. So just come by. Don't have to be super nice. You could blast us if you want to, because I definitely want to hear where you're coming from. But just be nice to other people in the chat if you would. Thanks. Let's see. Kins. Oh, technically, you're not guilty until proven in a court of law. Everybody is not left or right. Oh, Lincoln, yeah, right. But thank you. Thanks so much. Spot on the center. That's where I'm hoping to be. And in fact, you know, like, I have a theory, if you guys will. I think that, like, this whole idea of left and right is very like binary, on or off, right? 1 or 0. And I feel like I am a big quantum computing guy. And to be honest, I think that, you know, the quantum world is much closer to probably how our brain works, in that, you know, there are many things that can be happening at the same time. Like if you follow quantum computing these days, there's a qubit. And the qubit is exponentially more powerful than a 0 and a 1, because it can be all the thing. It can be a 1 or a 0 or neither or both. The permutations are kind of infinite. And so, like, that's how I want to think. I want me to be open to all possibilities, and not locked into, oh, this is a judgment call, this is what I think is happening right now. I'm like taking in information and trying to get it to you guys as quickly as possible. So that's like what my news ideology, I think, would be. Anyway, that's enough for tonight. We will see you tomorrow, and hope you guys have a wonderful night. And if you guys are in the Midwest or Illinois or Wyoming, please stay safe, stay alert, and watch your local news for all the weather coverage. Thanks.